on your digital terrestrial TV, because we are free to air on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Thanks for choosing us. We are Joy News, independent, fearless and credible journalism. This afternoon, experts hint fuel prices margin could hit 11 cedis in the coming days, with a rippling effect on the cost of goods and services. We'll actually hear this afternoon from some drivers and consumers who are bearing the brunt of the incessant increases in prices of petroleum products, and also interrogate the powers that be.
Yeah, Juma, Scout Benyano, who got off where now you say, I won't be in coffee. Yes, can be in fan coffee and fan show, or Yerenoma, Debia, Joe Pebusia. And
also, public utility workers call for the immediate dismissal of the managing director of the electricity company of Ghana, Ajman Bodu, who will be speaking to the leaders of the union who are accusing Mr. Bodu of misappropriation of company funds.
The deficiency in the managerial competence of Mr. Kwame Ajman Bodu had manifested in the following results: acute shortage of meters. Some customers have paid for new service for over 6 months and still waiting.
And in our Living Standard series today, we'll tell you how economic hardship is taking jokes out of the drinking sports.
People are drinking, when people are laughing, sharing jokes and all this, I feel funny about that. The story has changed because we started in a very good boom, but now things have lagged behind.
That's more from the Drunkards Association here on The Pulse this afternoon on the way forward. My name is Blessed Sugan. The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Digny, Lu Affordable Safe Sanitation. Also remember, this afternoon we are streaming live on YouTube, and all of our social media handles is JoyNews on TV, Twitter at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Blessed Sugan. Please stay for details. Well, this afternoon, prices of petroleum products are projected to significantly rise in the next 48 hours. Experts say the margin could hit up to 11 cedis per litre. The volatility on the markets is attributed to the rising cost of crude on the international market. Consumers say they can't bear this anymore.
Because I also drivers, I say 2 FM. Yeah, it's your man. Because all every day be an weird man. Now, Edman away and what the tough fuel, any cow and the season. Now, every day, now what's one name, hand to mouth from Quadman.
For me, I'll just pray the government I should see the fuel so that they'll do something about it for us.
Young drivers, 1 year to fuel, so we are Juma, Scout Benyano, who got off where now you say, I won't be in coffee. Yes, can be in fan coffee and fan show, or Yerenoma, Debia, Joe Pebusia. And Tisrana, Debia, Casa, Bano, no maybe or no nest or bim, not titanium or titanium, Yafiakosu, Yaji 4 city 60 pesos. And so Ankabadistan cry, Yaji 3 city crampo from here to Sua. A year, passengers and Sobaba more. And so the assassin I know, passengers no more.
Well, that's not all, because issues relating to fuel prices are also having a toll, not just on the transport sector, but also the purchasing powers of individuals. JoyNews has been on the street interacting with some people, this time around in drinking sports.
Some of the people who host me, when you pay there, I can say your names.
Beer is expensive, you see, so they cannot cope of drinking the beer.
Alote owns Fastway, a drinking spot in the heart of Adabraka. His business has been running smooth for the past 30 years. But lately, his customers are sinking his business because they owe him and are not paying.
These are some of the people who owes me. When you pay there, I can't say your names. Say people who me. See, when they pay, and then I can't say it. It's a business.
To supplement his income, he has also become a lotto vendor. But even that, he says business is still hard.
I have a lot of friends who normally they come here to buy painting, but this time when they come 2 bottles then they go away. Sometimes someone will come here, he can offer a drink for anybody who sees here. Oh my friend, what do you want to take? Well, this time you can't find that one.
The situation is true for many people who enjoy themselves or have some form of recreational activity at the various drinking spots and bars. Anan Sowa does not drink, but he spends his time at Fastway for fun.
When people are drinking, when people are laughing, sharing jokes and all these things, I feel funny about that. The story has changed because we started in a very good boom, but now things have lagged behind. Why? Because beer is expensive, you see, so they cannot cope of drinking the beer. Something is being sold at 5 cedis. You bought it at 5 cedis at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you come back at 9:30 in the morning, and then being sold at 7 cedis.
While having this discussion, right opposite the spot is Ni Afutu, who requested to share his views about his living standard.
If you don't have at least 100 cedis to spend daily, just sleep. You can't even approach a woman, otherwise she will burden you with her needs. Liquor is so expensive you can't even buy.
The story rings true with this Liberian guy who came in as a refugee. 5 years ago, he could afford a bottle of Guinness and beer at this bar, but not anymore.
Sometimes when I decide couple, I take a little, to keep my body warm.
Consuming alcohol helps him numb the pain of losing his family. Although he is not a national, he sings the chorus of calling on government to ensure a better economy.
Everything is getting expensive. Everything, transportation. First this thing we buy it 50 pesos, but now it's 80 pesos 1 cedi. Before I was going to drink Guinness, but now because no money, so I got to drink this one.
Bob recently lost his job as a mail porter. He is forced to take on a toilet cleaner job so he can cater for his wife and 2 children, whom he sent back to the village because Accra living is expensive.
Working in this economy is hard. I have 2 children and it's tough.
He comes here from time to time to drink and puff away cigarettes, hoping it would ease the burden on his mind.
I used to drink Guinness and herb Afrik, but now I have to opt for a cheaper liquor.
Aloti's prayer is for the economy to bounce back so that his customers will settle their bills and make merry once again.
Well, there's more on our Joy living standards, which we'll be bringing to you later here on The Pulse. But let's broaden the conversation on the fuel prices here on The Pulse. Joining me now is Fritz Moses. He's actually a research analyst with the Institute of Energy Security. We also have Adam Mutawakilu, who is a former ranking member on Parliament's Mines and Energy Committee, and Duncan Amwa is the Executive Director for the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana. Thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us. Kofi Capito is with the Consumer Protection Agency, and fortunately as well, today happens to be the Consumer Protection Day, so that also fits into the conversation that we're having. Let me start off with you, Duncan Amwa, because the projection started coming from your quarters, where we got the indications that fuel prices could rise and hit the 11 cedi margin in the next 48 hours. Do you have any indications to the contrary as we speak? Duncan Amwa, if you can hear me, I'm asking, based on the projections that you've made, do we have any changes as of now? We'll get to Duncan Amwa shortly, but Fritz Moses is also with us, the Institute of Energy Security. They've also been monitoring this as well. Fritz, from your quarters, what can you say about the projections that prices of fuel may rise in the next 48 hours? It appears that we're having some challenges hearing from Fritz Moses. But Fritz, if you're still with us, I'm asking about this projection that we're hearing of. 11 Ghana cedis, that's where the next stop will be for the price margin for fuel. Do you have any indications pointing to the fact that some new factors may come through which will at least reduce the margin? That's the prayer of a lot of people out there. What indications do you have from your outfit? Fritz, it appears that, but let's now connect to Adam Mutawakilu, who's also a former ranking on Parliament's Mines and Energy Committee. So Wakilu, thank you so much for joining us on the Pulse. Now, there are fears that this is going out of hands and that there may be a rippling effect on the economy. But from where you sit and watching the figures rise, what do you think could be done about the consistent and persistent rise in the fuel prices?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon to our cherished viewers. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you very much. For the past 1 year, we have been in very turbulent situation, and more especially with the current geopolitical system that we are facing with the Russia-Ukraine issues. That is causing a lot of turbulence in the market. Currently, we have the dollar about $99 per barrel as of today, after dropping from $111 per barrel yesterday. Yeah, but when you look at the general outlook in terms of the African continent, Ghana is of a special case because apart from the global oil prices increasing, our currency is not anything to write home about in terms of the exchange rate. The currency is depreciating seriously against the US dollar and other major foreign currencies. That did indicate that even if the international oil prices wasn't going up, would have been experiencing increases in the price of finished good that within, and therefore the government has a responsibility to first and foremost ensure that they take certain interventions to cushion consumers. And the government can do this from several perspectives. Ghana is a net exporter of crude. That means that when prices go up, Ghana rake in more revenue because the benchmark price is far below the market price. And when it is far below the market price, we have a windfall. For example, in the 2022 budget, the benchmark price for our crude export was $64. If currently a price of a barrel of crude is $99, that means that we are making some windfall. And we expect the government to take positive actions by looking at how to subsidize the fuel price hike. The other way the government can look at is looking at the taxes. There are some taxes I've been calling on government to scrap, like the special petroleum tax. The special petroleum tax is needed when the benchmark price, when the oil price is below the benchmark price. Currently, it's far above the benchmark price. The government must make moves to take off the special petroleum tax from the tax build-up in the petroleum price. We have to also look at some of the taxes in the petroleum price build-up, like the sanitation levy. I don't think we need to have it there. The box margin, because the main purpose of the boss margin is for strategic stock. Currently, we are using it for BDCs to store their finished products. And they pay fees for that. I think that if it is to manage the tanks, that fees that the various BDCs pay should be able to maintain. But the boss margin is for strategic stock. And once we are not having any strategic stock, we don't need to be taking that money and keeping it to ourselves and doing what we want with it. It is clear that this government has failed the people of Ghana. Yeah, it is clear that.
But if you make the claim that this is more about government, then some experts will also point you to what's happening elsewhere, the vagaries of the international dynamics. Russia is on the foreburner. A lot of experts talking about the tension between Russia and Ukraine and what's happening on developing countries such as Ghana. Is that far-fetched in this case?
If you look at Ghana vis-a-vis other African countries, Ghana is doing worse. Do you know that now there's fuel smuggled from Togo to Ghana?
You're making those claims. Do you have evidence to back that?
Yeah, because the currency is very stable. Other countries are taking major moves. Even the USA. On Thursday, the Democrats in the Senate have initiated the move to impose what we call to pass what we call the Windfall Tax Act to ensure that the oil giants are being taxed to compensate consumers. This is a government that take the people serious. Do you know that in Kenya, the impact is not like that of Ghana? Do you know that in Ivory Coast, the impact is not like that of Ghana? Because it's not only the international oil prices that is causing the fuel price hikes in Ghana. It's also the depreciation of the cedi. And who has the responsibility to ensure that we have a stable economy, we have a stable currency? It's the government. The government.
Right. Let me bring in Duncan Amoah at this point. Duncan Amoah, thanks for joining us. I was asking at the start of the show if you have any indicators pointing to the contrary, that we may not necessarily hit the 11 Ghana cedis margin in the next 48 hours. What's the latest? What do you have?
Well, what I can assure, based on a few communication with the oil marketing companies and the BDCs, is that these are prices that they cannot do much about. In previous times, you would have realized that a lot of them would have hoarded the fuel and probably waiting to adjust their prices tomorrow. But we generally haven't recorded any shortages yet in the system, and people are still able to at least make their last-minute purchases. But give or take, these increases would reflect tomorrow because BDC prices have already gone up. And once that happens, you cannot expect the oil marketing company to get a certain fund somewhere that they could also use to mitigate these increases that is already happening at the BDC position. So technically, it is not likely we'll be able to dodge. What I get also is that there are steps within government to see what can be done. But I think that it is coming in rather too late. We would have expected a series of engagements already, especially between government and the BDCs, knowing very well that we are not in very normal times, and allowing the impact of these increases at the pump, which is the final point, is going to have a catastrophic effect on the entire economy. One would have expected the finance ministry to be a bit more proactive, but sadly, the increases that we envisage happening tomorrow, as of this time and hour, not much has been done, and the only eventual bit is that it's going to reflect.
But that's where the challenge often comes through, the fact that all of you appear to be staring at government for some interventions. How about the oil marketers themselves? They have a 3-month window, as we understand per their practice, within which they order for their supplies. And the indication is that they are enjoying the cheaper prices window. So why not take advantage of that and then cushion consumers as well? Why is that not happening? Explain that dynamics to us.
Well, sadly, if you go through the Association Oil Marketing Company's statement that was released yesterday, and also if you engage them like some of us personally do, they are taking a lot of hits at this time. They know very well if they throw out everything onto the market, there could be quite a bit of chaos and pandemonium. So sometimes, in most of the instances, they drop their margins, and I have seen some pricing sheet where some were taking a hit to the tune of -22 pesos in order to stay below what Goil, Total, and others are able to price. If you price above them because they have a wider coverage, the tendency for your product not to be patronized or your station not to be patronized altogether is higher. So they are undergoing a lot of challenges as far as our interactions with them is concerned. What everybody looks up to government to do, just like the French government has done 3 days ago, observing the trend, especially as far as fuel price is concerned. The French government decided, okay, we are not talking of taxes or anything, but we are intervening to the tune of 2 billion for the next 4 months in order to observe what the trends could be like.
But do we have that capacity? I'm sorry for cutting through. I'm sorry for cutting in, but do we have that capacity to pay such an amount to cushion the consumer?
If you don't look for that amount to cushion, you would look for that amount to pay your labor force eventually, because very soon everybody else will be coming back to the same government. And so whereas government sometimes think, okay, I'm making a saving, I need the money, I need the revenue, there is a corresponding effect that holding on to those monies would have on the economy. There's a rise in general goods and services, and there's a rise in cost of fuel. Now, ECG is also waiting to, pass on a little more to stay sustainable at the pumps, at their, operations. Everything else is going up. Cost of living generally rises. And the people who depend on government for salaries at the end of the month will come back to the same point to say, look, what we take home cannot take us home. So 2 billion, you may say you don't have it immediately, but it would end up costing you sometimes 10 billion, 20 billion eventually, because everything else has gone up. Government contracts, the cost of roads, you will pay double. The cost of building hospitals, schools, and other social amenities, I'm not sure anybody would put in those resources and charge the same rate they did when fuel was 5 cedis. So things will double up even against government's own expenditure. The earlier we intervene as a central government, the better, in order that the economy does not get derailed completely.
Okay, thanks, Duncan Amwa, for giving us your perspective on this. Fritz Moses is also with the Institute for Energy Security, is joining us now. Fritz, what more factors are influencing the projections that are being made as of now? The last release you gave indicated that the depreciation of the CD and some other international factors are accounting for this, but the rate at which we're seeing a sharp rise in the prices of fuel raises a lot of questions. What's the new dynamics to this?
You can hear me now.
Yes, Fritz, if you can hear me, yes.
Yes, okay. So, like you stated, our analysis indicates that we have been hit like several other nations on the continent by the international market price changes. And the fact has been that in just this window where we are going to see prices reaching double figures per litre, the increment has been substantial, where for petrol prices have risen beyond 19% on the international market, on average terms for the window, for the last window. And of course, also for diesel, we've seen prices rise on international markets by more than 30%. For the LPG too, it's also gone up beyond 17%. And same for Brent crude oil, the international benchmark itself, too. Prices have risen by double digits. And so these are the facts that are causing the increment. But unfortunately for us in Ghana, another prime factor has been our cedi's consistent depreciation, where from the beginning of this year, we've seen a drop in the cedi's rate against the US dollar, depreciation by close to 20% or even more. In just the last ended repricing window, we saw a depreciation by some 5%, over 5%, from around 6 cedis, 83 pesos to the dollar, to currently over 7 cedis to the dollar. And that is an unfortunate situation because in our local markets, prices of the product are sold in the cedis. And so in a sense, importers that bring in the product that trade in dollars are affected by a depreciation of the cedi. And so in essence, the OMCs are forced to also increase their prices at the pumps in order that they can make up for the cost that they incur by purchasing prices or products that are priced in dollars, where the dollar keeps appreciating against the against the cedi. And these have been the main factors. Right. These are the things that we believe that the government must be able to look within it to see what it can actually control. And we believe there are several things that governments can actually control to cap the consistent increases.
Okay, I appreciate the fact this is a highly deregulated market, but how about subventions or perhaps subsidies from the government to the OMCs? Would that be a feasible approach to adopt in this case, particularly when we know the factors go way beyond the markets?
Well, essentially, that would be one of the points that we think government should be considering. I mean, what we have been saying is that you look at the windfall that government has been making from around $60 per barrel benchmark for this year in the budget that was read last year, and prices reaching around $140 per barrel at some point last week. Then, of course, you get a sense that government is making the windfall. I mean, we had former member of Parliament, Matriculation, speak on the windfall that government has made in the last 3 months. I mean, it's so huge that we believe government can actually use that revenue it's gained to, even not necessarily the OMCs, it can meet up with some of the BDCs themselves. This is a time where government must really be willing to listen, to engage and to manage the situation in ways that it would help the government itself, it will help us consumers too, because, I mean, we can't sit and have government consistently enjoy from increasing price on the international market, and we consumers will rather be suffering from the negative impact that it has on the economies. Right. At the end of the day, we believe that it will be important that government will consider also that we consumers will also benefit from the excess revenue that it is making on the international market.
I'm grateful, Fritz Moses, that you've been able to join us. Let's do this now. Kofi Kapito, we'll take your last thoughts on this matter, because today also happens to be the World Consumer Protection Day. What are your thoughts given the incessant rise in fuel prices across the country? Kofi Kapito, if you can hear me, I'm asking that given that today is the World Consumer Protection Day, what do you make of the increasing prices of fuel across the country, and how do we move to protect the consumer? It appears that we're having challenges joining Kofi Kapito there, but Adam Mutawatikilu, if you're with us, let's wrap up with you then. What will be the solution to all of this? Briefly, sir. Okay. Fritz, if you're on with us, your thoughts, final thoughts as we wrap up on this.
Well, Blessed, I think governments must be willing to listen. I mean, it will be unprecedented for prices to hit double digits, 10 cedis, 11 cedis per liter at the pumps. And unfortunately, that's the situation we're going to find ourselves in from tomorrow. And I find it very worrying that to date, we haven't seen any results from the meetings and negotiations between MPA, the Ministry of Energy, and the Ministry of Finance. We haven't had any communication so far on what has actually gone on. And for us to even be assured that government is really committed at doing something about it, and the Ministry of Finance is really looking at doing something to stall the increments. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened, but we believe that government can actually do more by using the revenues that it has accrued so far to beef up or to cushion with the consumers. Also, it will be necessary for government to consider cutting down on some of the taxes on the price border. Look at countries like Kenya, like Egypt, in Africa here, even Togo, they have looked at cutting down on their taxes in the price. And these are some of the things that we believe can help ease the pain on really the ordinary consumer. I mean, look at the price border, and about 2 cedis, 40 pesos in the price of petrol is made up, account for government taxes. So if government is even taking away 1 cedi out of that price, even though we believe it may be minimal and may not really be impactful in the long term, it will go in a way to limit the increments that we are expecting from tomorrow.
Okay, Fritz Moses, I'm grateful. We'll get back to issues relating to the economy, but some more stories that we've been focusing on here on the Pulse. Don't impose a retired MD on us. That's the call from the workers of the Electricity Company of Ghana, who are demanding the immediate removal of their managing director, Kwame Agyemang-Budu. The workers accuse Mr. Budu of misappropriating funds. They fear he may run the company into bankruptcy. Joining us now via Zoom is Robert Boydu. He's a Senior Industrial Relations Officer of the Public Utility Workers Union. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Now, do you have any proof at all to justify these claims that you're making against your managing director? It appears that we're having challenges connecting to him, but let's now take a listen to Michael Nyantichi. He's the General Secretary of the Public Utility Workers Union.
Now, Executive Committee of the ECG Senior and Junior Staff Union of the Public Utilities Workers Union of TUC Ghana met on Tuesday, 22nd February 2022 in the conference room of the Hall of Trade Unions and deliberated on certain pertinent issues affecting the operations and industrial harmony of ECG. The said meeting deliberated on the continuous stay in office of Mr. Kwame Agyemang-Budu as Managing Director after attaining 60 years on February 17, 2022, in the light of the negative effects his tenure as Managing Director has brought on the company. The deficiency in the managerial competence of Mr. Kwame Agyemang-Budu had manifested in the following results: acute shortage of meters. Some customers have paid for new service for over 6 months and still waiting. Lack of electrical cables for key maintenance and service connections. Shortage of electrical poles for new service and repair works.
Fortunately, Robert Boydu, who is the Senior Industrial Relations Officer of the Public Utilities Workers Union, is now on phone with us. I was asking earlier, sir, about the proof that you have to back the claims that you're making, that the managing director of the company is actually running ECG into a loss. What more do you have to say about that? But on your screens now, as you can see, some of the aggrieved members of the Public Utility Workers Union, obviously, who are not happy about what's happening at the Electricity Company of Ghana. They are asking government to deal with the managing director. In fact, they're calling for his resignation or dismissal. They also claim that the company is not in a good standing as we speak, and that the managing director of the company is, of course, at his retirement age and needs to leave the company. We'll bring you some more updates on that. But obviously, Robert is back. Let's try one more time. Robert, if you can hear us, we're asking about the proof. What proof do you have to back the claims that you're making? Obviously, we see that your members are aggrieved, but what do you have? What have you laid your hands on to prove that indeed the managing director is not managing the company as he should? Well, so this is the pulse. Don't forget that we're bringing you some more updates when we return from this break. Stay with us. Criticizing management of the Ghana Airports Company over their failure to settle arrears owed ECG, leading to the cut in power supply in parts of the airport's ranking member on the Roads Committee, Kwame Gavins Abuja, accused management of misplaced priority, arguing that monies used for the purchase of the Christmas tree during the festive season could have been channeled into paying the debts owed ECG. He says the committee will actually summon the minister to the House over the current situation. We can now get more from our parliamentary correspondent, Kwesi Parker-Wilson, who's joining us for the very latest. Parker, what more can you tell us about the demands of the minority with regards to the Ghana Airport Company?
Well, so the ranking member on the Roads Committee, Kwame Abuja, has been making the point that clearly there seems to be some endemic mismanagement at the Ghana Airport Company, judging from the fact that the Electricity Company of Ghana has cut supply to part of the airport, which is an indictment on the management. And so for him, this management stems from the fact that you know you owe or you are indebted to ECG, and yet you proceed to buy Christmas trees during the festive season. Those monies could have been channeled to paying ECG, which would have avoided this whole issue about cutting power supply to parts of the airport company. So he has threatened or has noticed that the minister will appear before the committee to answer some questions on why the airport company is unable to settle its debt owed the Electricity Company of Ghana.
But how about the demands that the minister himself comes to answer some questions on the floor of the House? I'm talking about the demands of the minority, that they would want the Minister of State to deal with that.
The Minister
of Transport.
Well, I mean, the minority, the hauling the minister would be, first and foremost, according to the ranking member on the Roads Committee, would be that the minister appears before the committee first, and if they are not satisfied with his answers, that is when they will haul him before the House. So for now, they are looking at how the committee, the Roads and Transport Committee of Parliament, will summon the minister before it, and for the minister to brief them on what's happening. And so if the answers are unsatisfactory, then they forward him, they refer him to the chamber for him to answer some questions to all the members of the House.
Parker, do we have any idea of how much is involved as we speak?
Well, for now, we do not have an idea. He told me that they were still looking at the figures, but they know it's hovering around over 40,000 Ghana cedis. That's what we are told, but he's not too sure with the figures. But then he will look around and check and then ensure that all the monies owed ECG will be paid.
Parker-Wilson from Parliament. Now, 2 persons, as we understand, have been injured, over 70 others displaced after severe rainstorms swept through Djanga in the West Matriculation municipality of the Northeast region. The storm destroyed over 50 houses, a school building, and also several electricity poles, thereby displacing the school children and leaving many houses without electricity. The affected persons, now living with the relatives and friends as well, are appealing for support, while the injured are being treated at the Djanga Polyclinic. Correspondent Ilyasu Tanko traveled to the area and filed this report.
Alidu Seidu Abu lives in this house with over 20 of his family members. It is a complete structure of about 8 rooms. On Sunday at about 6 p.m., a severe rainstorm hit the community and destroyed 6 rooms in Abu's house.
It was raining small until getting to 6:45 going. So the air came So I was standing here when my wife came out with her children, saying that the air just lifted the zinc up. So they went to run up and come to their grandmother's room. So I just, blocked them inside the veranda there. So before I could reject that moment, the time that I blocked them, it's that very moment that the air blew, take the zinc up and floor the zinc inside the yard.
Next to Abu's house, a 7-bedroom house has also been destroyed by the storm. It was being occupied by 45-year-old Hudu Wuni and his family members, including his 80-year-old mother. Hudu, speaking to JoyNews, said the incident had left them with nothing and pleaded for support.
When the wind started blowing, and it took all the house, the zinc, including everything. We don't have any even place to sleep. My mother, my children, and everybody, we slept outside. The rain, since yesterday, the dress I wear, I'm still wearing the same dress. And we have no anything to do. So we are appealing to the government and then the NGOs to help us to roof about 7 rooms. This is my room. Where I'm standing, this is my room.
His elderly mother, Fati Saka, also begged for support. The roofs have been ripped and everything destroyed. The ceiling and my fan are all gone. My TV too. My appeal is to the government to assist us. Officials of the National Disaster Management Organization are still in the community conducting an assessment of the situation. However, more than 50 houses are said to have been affected by the storm, displacing an estimated 70 people. We are displaced and now sleep in our compound. Others are also staying with our relatives. We have friends too, so we are appealing to the government to look at our situation. The storm also damaged a school building and destroyed several electricity poles, causing a power outage in some homes. The headmaster of the school appealed for the school to be renovated as soon as possible.
You can see some of the students, they are using it as classrooms. So if emergencies are not taken, then the school children will have to be left out sitting under trees. And it is almost rainy season. So it means that if it is not rehabilitated now, anytime there is clouds, then the children have to go home.
2 persons have reportedly been injured when this building, in which they were watching a football match, collapsed during the incident. Edie Adam was in the building when it came down, but he was lucky, having escaped unhurt. We heard a loud sound of the storm, so we started to run out. As soon as we left, the whole building came down, destroying almost everything in the structure. 2 people got injured. One has been admitted, and the other had a cut on his head. Storm incidents are common in the Djanga area. As the people continue to count their losses, the assemblyman for the area is appealing to the NADMO to come to their aid.
We just appeal to NADMO too. Sometimes they do this and nothing will happen. And the people will tend to insult we, the assembly members or the opinion leaders, that we have taken something from NADMO and we are not giving them. And that is not the case. So we appeal to NADMO to also do well this time and don't disappoint us. Do something for the people.
Reporting for JoyNews, Ilyasu Tanko, Djanga.
Now, 4 persons, including a couple, have been burnt to death in 2 separate fire incidents in the Ashanti region. The deceased were asleep when the fire started but could not escape due to its severity. Several properties have been destroyed by the fire, which occurred at Jinase and Asante Mampong of the Asokwa municipality of the Mampong municipality and the Mampong municipality, respectively. Now, the Ashanti Regional Fire Command is yet to establish the true cause of that fire. Emmanuel Bright Kweku has more in the following report.
After trying severally to reach his father on phone, he received a call from his friend, only to be told his father had been gutted by fire. Kingsley Asante, the eldest son of the deceased Godfred Afenyo, says he last spoke with his father on Monday, who was hoping to meet his grandchild.
I thought it was a dream, so I was just there, and my brother took called and he said, Kingsley, oh hey, Mr. Godfred Ashew. Initially I dreamt and like he was looking nice, and I said to my friend, and I said, yeah, the way I've dreamt about my father, I don't think he's going to last for long, so I need to call him. So I called him severally and it wasn't going through, and it just came, just like around 12:30, and I heard it.
The deceased, 57-year-old Godfred Afenyo, and his wife, 42-year-old Happy Danso, a petty trader, were sleeping in a makeshift wooden structure at Chinyase when it caught fire. The fire, which started about midnight, razed down their home together with some property. Their charred body parts have since been conveyed to the morgue by the police. Public Relations Officer of the Ashanti Regional Command of the Ghana National Fire Service, DO3 Peter Day, says investigations are ongoing to unravel the cause of the fire.
When we got there, we realized the fire had engulfed a wooden structure. So we extinguished it, and after we extinguished it, we realized 2 people had been burnt by the fire. A 51-year-old man and a 42-year-old woman lost their lives as a result of the fire. For now, we know the whole wooden structure got burnt, and investigations are underway to establish what actually caused the fire.
Another fire incident at Mampong killed 2. Granddaughter of one of the deceased recounts she was awoken by the smoke which emanated from their room. After several calls for help to douse the fire, her grandmother sadly died.
I was unable to pick anything from the room. I was even half naked.
DO3 Bafo Joe of the Ghana Fire Service attributes the incident to an old electrical wiring system in households in the area.
So here, more than 25 years. And a cable after 25 years, the insulators need so.
This is an old town. The cables and the wirings in various houses are weak. Inferior wirings can also be a contributing factor to these fire incidents.
For JoyNews, Emmanuel Bright-Kweku reporting.
Now to our Living Standard series. Drinking spots are not just for alcohol, but the bars and light moments as well. Now, the economic hardship has actually taken the jokes out of the drinking bars. Patrons rather share stories of hardship and survival. Some have made a switch to cheap local liquor in order to satisfy their drinking habits and balance their finances. Mami A.C. Thompson has more in this edition of the Joy Living Standard series.
Alote owns Fastway, a drinking spot in the heart of Adabraka. His business has been running smooth for the past 30 years, but lately his customers are sinking his business because they owe him and are not paying.
These are some of the people who owes me. When you pay there, I can say your names. Say people who me. See, when they pay, and then I can say it. It's a business.
To supplement his income, he has also become a lotto vendor. But even that, he says business is still hard.
I have a lot of friends who normally they come here to buy printing, but this time when they come 2 bottles, then they go away. Sometimes someone will come here, he can offer a drink for anybody who sees here. Like, oh, my friend, what do you want to take? Well, this time you can't find that one.
The situation is true for many people who enjoy themselves or have some form of recreational activity at the various drinking spots and bars. Anan Soa does not drink, but he spends his time at Fastway for fun.
When people are drinking, when people are laughing, sharing jokes and all these things, I feel funny about that. The story has changed because we started in a very good boom.
And interestingly, there are some reactions that are greeting the story. Well, joining us to discuss this development is the president of the Ghana Drunkards Association, Moses Onga. Clearly, your members are feeling the pinch of the increase in cost of goods and services. What solution do you propose to this?
Hello?
Yes, I'm asking what solutions you're proposing to this. The fact that some of your members are complaining about the increases in the prices of your products, the products you normally patronize.
We cannot entirely put the blame on government alone because basically there are increments in world food prices, and aside that, there are increments in fuel prices, and as a result of that, it has brought about the increment in beverages, the prices of beverages in the market. As I'm talking to you now, a lot of drinking spots have been shut down, and it's increasing the unemployment rate in the country. I don't get what I'm saying, because if a drinking spot should employ over 5 workers and over 100,000 drinking spots should close down at a particular point, it's going to create a lot of unemployment, increased unemployment situations in the country. And you can bear with me that it is this beverage industry that has created over 2 million jobs in the country. So all we can do is to beg the government, at least plead with the government to do something about the fuel prices. At least if the fuel prices should come down, I think there will be the alcoholic or beverages prices will come down.
Do you feel this is only got to do with government? Is that the only factor affecting and influencing all that's happening now? How about the market itself?
The market itself, if we ask the wholesalers, they are also complaining that even the manufacturers are complaining of the raw materials. The importation of the raw materials from abroad, you know, the ethanol is imported. If the ethanol was being produced in our country here, are you getting what I'm saying? Yeah. If the ethanol is produced from Ghana here, we wouldn't have that much increase than how the ethanol is imported. So as I'm talking to you now, beer, a bottle of beer first cost 7 cedis at first. Now it's now almost 9 cedis to 10 cedis. Appetition 1/3 is now 2 cedis. Sometimes you hold 5 cedis to the drinking spot, and you'll be able to drink as many as even 10 thoughts. Now you take 5 cedis, 2 thoughts, it will not reach.
The claim is that your products are actually luxury in nature, and that you're using,
that too, if we are not careful, and if Food and Drugs Authority and Ghana Standard Authority are not careful, a lot of unqualified products will be in the market. Products that will make people's lips go pale. Products that will make, people grow lean.
I get that argument of yours, but I'm also bringing to the fore the concerns that, after all, what you're going in for is luxury, and so once the prices increase, you should be able to adjust your personal budget to meet the market.
No. It's not luxury per se. We are drinking responsibly to create employment. If we stop drinking, a lot of unemployment rate will increase in the country. If we imagine if we should close down all drinking bars for a week, Accra Brewery will close down. About 400,000 workers will be laid off. Guinness Ghana will lay over 500 workers. Adonko Bitters, Akata Preku, and other beverages will lay off workers. Imagine the beer driver or the driver of the truck who convey the beer to the various places in the country. How he fends for his family, how he's going to pay school fees. So we are drinking responsibly to create employment. And once you kiss a glass by default, you are a member of the association. And that is why we are pleading with the government that we are doing our best to ensure that everyone is okay in the country. We are drinking responsibly to make sure that people survive.
And it's not as though all the demands you're making will be addressed.
Not that Lazarus.
I get you.
The beverage industry is
I get the argument you're making, but then the demands you're all equally making, it's not as though these demands will be met in a spate of days. That situation we are looking at now may continue for some months at least, looking at the projections in the fuel prices and all of that. So how are you going to adjust to that as members of the Drunkards Association?
That is why we can only plead with the government, because if you want to stage a nationwide demonstration, there will be chaos in this country, because we have over 7.6 million people and we are still growing, and as an association, as consumers. Are you getting what I'm saying?
So you're considering a demonstration on this?
That is if we have no option. That is if the government is not ready to have a dialogue with us. And that is if the tourism ministry did not recognize that we as consumers are more important to the government.
But why would you go on demonstration for something that is your personal preference? I mean, it's
not a personal preference. Like I'm talking to you now, without beverages in this country, the country will go bankrupt. The various tourism sites are being operated by sport. Tourism itself does not make money from it. How many tourist sites do we have in this country? And how much do they contribute to the tourism ministry? We as a beverage industry contribute a lot towards the economy of the country. Imagine if a beer is being taxed as 10 pesos for 10 pesos per day, and over 5 million bottles are circulating in a month. How much are we raising for the government? How much are we raising for the government?
Well, Moses, we need to go. You are the leader of a group. Are you personally feeling that pinch as well? Is it the same for all of your members? I mean, some argue that the situation may not be the same for your members.
All the raw materials that we can be able to produce ethanol on our own. Even during the government inauguration ceremony, the president said he has realized that establishing of alcoholic Akbeteshi factory will increase jobs in the country and will be able to export some. When Corona came, it was this same ethanol we're using for hand sanitizer. They never asked us to use Coca-Cola for sanitizer. They never asked us to use Sobolo for sanitizer. It was alcohol.
All right,
so that means alcohol is very important to the society.
Right.
So therefore, the government must realize that the beverage industry plays a very important and major role in the country's economy. That is why we can only plead with them that.
Moses, I'm grateful. Ethanol, I guess you're saying, is very much necessary to society. If you're drinking, drink responsibly as well. But this is The Pulse. We'll return after the short break. Welcome back to The Pulse. State prosecutors handling Oliver Baka-Vomawa's case at the District Court Tuesday failed to show up in court. This actually left the Circuit Court judge hearing the matter as an additional magistrate, Eliano Bochwe, infuriated. She warned that she will not tolerate such a conduct. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has the latest.
A member of the legal team for the youth activist, Dr. Justice Shremsai, urged the court to discharge the youth activist. He explained that the failure of the prosecutors to show up meant that they were not interested in pursuing this particular matter. The court, however, took the view that this was the first time they had failed to show up. It would be unfair to discharge the accused person, especially because just 24 hours prior, the team had showed up at the High Court where the bail application had been argued. She, however, pointed out that she would not countenance such a conduct, and also noted that even the documents necessary for the court to make a determination whether this is a case that merits being sent to the High Court for trial have also not been filed. She therefore warned some police prosecutors who were present to inform the police prosecutor handling this particular case that he needs to show seriousness, and that if at the next date this repeats itself again, the court will advise itself. And so the case was adjourned yet again, with a Fix the Country convener being remanded into police custody. The expectation of the court is that on March 29, when it returns, at least some good news will be received by way of the filing of the bill of indictment. For JoyNews from the Ashaman District Court, my name is Joseph Akable.
And now the Health and Safety Committee set up to investigate the health and safety regime governing Ghana's mining sector is calling on the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to empower the Minerals Commissions to crack the whip on mining companies that flout the law. This follows the revelation by the committee that many mining companies invited to present their health and safety plans failed to respond to the committee. The committee was set up following the explosion at a PAT that killed 13 people and left several others injured. Here's the committee chairperson, Professor Richard Amanka, speaking at the ceremony to hand over their report.
We had initial discussions with the Chief Executive Officer of Minerals Commission, and in addition to the 14 measures that they have already taken, some of the issues we also flagged, he indicated that he's observed them, he's flagged them, and some action is already going on in those directions, including some issues that I don't want to go into details here. So I believe that as we present this report today, with the action already going on, your good self, Honorable Minister, you will engage Minerals Commission and let them continue with the work that they are doing in this regard.
Well, the Minister, Samuel Abujina Paul, said the report is going to be the invaluable report which will guide matters to do with the health and safety of the mining sector here in Ghana.
This incident, unfortunate incident, occurred. All we have done from beginning to now is been anchored on extraordinary integrity and transparency. We do this in service of the people in our country, and so this report and all other reports have been worked on objectively, dispassionately, and by men and women of considerable integrity. And we also, those of us who've been given the privilege to serve in government, will approach the workings of these committees and their outcomes with extraordinary transparency and integrity. As I said when I appeared before Parliament, we have absolutely nothing to hide. Everything is above board. We are discharging our duties with fidelity and loyalty to our oaths, and that's exactly what we're doing.
The African Institute for Mathematical Sciences says there is a continuous depreciation in the number of female students studying mathematics at the university level. The center says the number began to drop from the basic to senior high school levels. According to the center president of the association, to reduce this trend, plans are underway to introduce the studying of mathematics among female students in junior and senior high schools through electronic means. There's more in the following report.
Speaking at the International Day of Mathematics and the launch of AIMS Ghana at 10, the center president, Dr. Prince Osei, revealed the institute is set to roll out an online program to bridge the gap of mathematics being a male-dominated field of study. He further explained the initiative is to encourage the learning of mathematics and pursuing careers in the subject among female students.
Math and science in general has benefited a lot from diversity. So we need a diversity and inclusion. So we need to make a deliberate effort to encourage more females to come into mathematics and science. And that is what we are doing at AIMS. So we are working on this. We are making a lot of effort across the pipelines. We are at the point of introducing some programs, online platforms to encourage junior high and senior high school to learn math online free of charge, and trying to encourage them to take careers in the universities in math and science, and then continue all the way to the highest level of training and research in math.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Education John Intim Fojo says efforts are being made to facilitate the achievement of the initiative, as the ministry is going to create STEM schools across the country to increase female participation in STEM.
Many barriers are preventing females from fully participating in STEM disciplines.
So some structural efforts will have to be made to make it more attractive and to be able to even attract females to get in, to be able to get to a gender parity of 1 when it comes to gender participation in STEM. Wesley Girls by far still remains one of the best SHS we have in the country, and they are very strong in math. And so you see the ladies competing at tertiary with all the men, and they are still some of the best surgeons, some of the best engineers. We want to create many more of Wesley Girls, and that is why the all-girls STEM high school is going to be created. We have one at Bosomtwe Girls, and we're also going to have one at Katamanso, which is going to be affiliated to AIMS Ghana, situated very close to them, and they are going to mentor them. So that is one of the initiatives that we are implementing to ensure that we encourage a lot of female participation in STEM.
Angela Nyabo is a past student from African Institute for Mathematical Sciences. She shares what inspired her love for mathematics while she was a student.
Mathematics came quite easily to me because every time I tried it, from high school, from junior high school to senior high school, I always scored very well. So it was a great motivation for me. And I also had teachers who really motivated me. In fact, one of them called me their heroine because every time I score highly in my mathematics courses. So that is what motivated me to pursue mathematics.
The African Institute for Mathematical Sciences also intends to extend this initiative to the rural areas. Mausi Numon's report for JoyNews.
And our Vice-Chancellor of the Kumasi Technical University has advised new students to commit to their purpose in life and school and not focus on distractions. Most university campuses have recently been characterized by high prevalence of sexual abuse, alcoholism, and indecency, among others. The KTU Don Engineer Professor Osei Owusu Achao notes these vices have the tendency to negatively impact the mental, physical, academic and moral aspects of students' life. He admonished newly admitted students actually to be devout in achieving their purpose in life as their intellectual development is intertwined with the diligent commitment to education. Professor Achao spoke at the 30th matriculation ceremony of the university.
I do solemnly promise.
After fulfilling the requirements and obligations of the university, a total of 4,488 students were inducted out of 6,771 who applied. These students are pursuing various undergraduate, distance, and continuing education programs in science, technology, engineering, and arts. Vice-Chancellor of KSTU, Professor Osei Owusu Achao, admonished students to remain focused in their pursuit of higher education as management assures them their maximum support and cooperation.
Your success in life depends on how focused you will remain in this phase. Commit yourselves to the purpose for which you have come here, that is, to acquire knowledge and skills, to complete a course of study, and to have a certificate.
Let's talk about the 2020 Onga Cook Art Competition. The regional battle line has been drawn as dozens of second cycle institutions lock horns in a quest to secure a slot in the national competition, which is set to kickstart in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, on the 19th of March. Well, in the Eastern region, the Kwaman Senior High School and Islamic Girls Senior High Schools qualified to represent the region in the 5th edition of the Onga Cook Art Competition. Here's JoyNews' Faustina Safu with a wrap of the Eastern Regional Contest.
Expectations were high at the start of the Eastern Regional Contest. Defending national champions, Akwamuman Senior High School had to compete with 12 other schools to retain their title.
Akwamuman Senior High School, extreme deficiency of vitamin C in a diet cause rickets. True or false? False. It is false.
By the end of round one, the reigning champions were in a comfortable lead. But there was a threat Islamic Girls Senior High School, Suhum, was determined to secure their slot in the national competition.
Suhum Islamic Girls Senior High School. During digestion, the enzyme erythrin converts peptones into A, fructose, B, gastric acid, C, glucose, D, amino acids.
Amino acid.
Amino acid is the right answer. Contestants, I hope you are ready. You have 2 hours to cook. Contestants, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, start cooking.
Of nerve-wracking contest, it was time for the judges to collate their scores. And alas, there was a tie. Akwamuman Senior High School and Islamic Girls Senior High School both scored 70.
And thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. We'll return with sports. And that's all we have for you in this edition of The Pulse. My name is Blessed Ogan. Don't forget to log on to myjoyonline.com. That's where we have all the latest on our running stories for you. Next, it's less talk shortly.